Hi, this is JD with a new edition of Weekly News Pills, a bouquet of hand-picked events in last 7 days from across the planet. I would request you to like, share these weekly news stories, subscribe to my channel and put in your valuable comments. Your comments will be a guiding light in my endeavor. News Pill 1. Facebook says sorry for mass outage and reveals why it happened.
Social media giant Facebook and its Instagram and WhatsApp services have been hit by widespread outages. Facebook says it's aware some people are having trouble accessing the platforms, but hasn't said what's behind the problem.
Facebook has apologized for the mass outage that left billions of users unable to access Facebook, Instagram, WhatsApp, and Messenger for several hours. To all the people and business around the world who depend on us, we are sorry for the inconvenience caused by today's outage across our platform, said Santosh Janardhan, Facebook's VP of Infrastructure, in a blog post late on Monday. The outage, which prevents users from refreshing their feeds or sending messages, was caused by configuration changes on the backbone routers, Janardhan said, without specifying exactly what the changes were. The changes caused issues that interrupted the flow of the traffic between routers in Facebook's data centers around the world, he added. This disruption to network traffic had a cascading effect on the way our data centers communicate, bringing our services to a halt, Janardhan said. Facebook, Instagram and WhatsApp stopped working shortly before noon ET, when the websites and apps for Facebook's services were responding with severe errors. Just after 7 p.m. ET, around 6 hours after the platform went offline, Facebook CEO Mark Zuckerberg wrote on his Facebook page, Facebook, Instagram, WhatsApp and Messenger are coming back online now. The outage marked the longest stretch of downtime for Facebook since 2008, when a bug knocked the site offline for about a day, affecting about 80 million users. The platform currently has around 3 billion users. Facebook shares closed almost 5% on Monday, but they were up over 1% in pre-marketing trading on Tuesday. News Pill 2. Australia won't welcome international tourists until 2022.
Well, the first cab off the rank is Australians. Australian citizens and Australian residents who are vaccinated, and they'll be able, in New South Wales, be able to travel overseas and return. And if you're double vaccinated overseas and you're Australian resident or Australian citizen with your immediate family, you'll be able to travel under those arrangements. But we need to get those home quarantine facilities or procedures in place. New South Wales will have those in place next month. And for the other states and territories, I've spoken to Dan Andrews about this. We're getting trials in place there as well. Once that home quarantine model is up and running at scale, then this will enable that to happen. The next priorities are skilled migrants that are very important for the country and who are double vaccinated, as well as students who are coming and returning to Australia for their studies. They're another important priority, and we will get to international visitors as well, I believe, next year. But the priority is Australians. We're ready for takeoff.
International tourists won't be welcome back to Australia until next year, with the return of skilled migrants and students given higher priority, the Prime Minister said on Tuesday. Prime Minister Scott Morrison said Australia was expected to reach the vaccination benchmark on Tuesday, at which the country could begin to open up. 80% of the population aged 16 and older having a second shot. Australian immigration has been at its lowest since World War II because of pandemic restrictions. The pandemic has also had a disastrous effect on Australian universities that rely heavily on fees paid by international students. The education sector fears that students will enroll in other countries unless Australia opens its border to them soon. The next priorities are skilled migrants that are very important for the country and who are double vaccinated, as well as students who are coming and returning to Australia for their studies, Morrison said. We'll get to international visitors as well, I believe next year, Morrison added. The Australian Tourism Export Council, which represents a sector that made 45 billion Australian dollars, that is $33 billion a year from international tourists before the pandemic, warns international visitors. New South Wales leads the other states in vaccination rates, and Sydney's airport is expected to be the first to reopen to vaccinated travellers. Newspill 3. UK plans fossil fuel-free power grid by 2035 using nuclear energy.
Manchester, England. All of Britain's electricity will come from renewable sources by 2035, the governing Conservatives announced Monday, saying the move would help end the country's reliance on imported fuel. Business and Energy Secretary Kwasi Kwarteng said the only way to strengthen Britain's energy security is zero-carbon power that is generated in this country. Prime Minister Boris Johnson also said he believed the UK could get to complete clean energy production, including renewable S. Britain gets a big chunk of its energy from renewable sources such as wind and sun, and is largely into the use of coal power, but remains heavily reliant on natural gas. Surging gas prices worldwide are driving up energy bills for millions of people in Britain. The advantage of that is that it will mean that, for the first time, the UK is not dependent on hydrocarbons coming from overseas, with all the vagaries in hydrocarbon prices and the risk that poses for P. Johnson is eager to burnish Britain's green credentials before a major UN climate summit that is due to open in Glasgow, Scotland, on October 31st. Johnson, as host, is trying to get other world leaders to increase their carbon-cutting pledges so the world can keep global warming to 1.5 degrees Celsius above pre-industrial levels.
Fossil fuels will no longer be used to generate power by the middle of the next decade as the United Kingdom's government tackles climate change and an energy supply crunch. The UK will reserve a key role for nuclear power in the nation's electricity system as a backup for renewables in a plan to phase out natural gas by 2035. Fossil fuels will no longer be used to generate power by the middle of the next decade as the UK tackles the double threat of climate change and an energy supply crunch that has sent prices spiraling to record highs. The government says the plan is a landmark move to end Britain's dependency on volatile fossil fuels. The size of the task is huge. The UK remains heavily reliant on gas, with 38% of electricity demand being met by the fuel. The government say that the nuclear is a key part of reaching net zero, but plans to get new projects built have been slow, with financing a sticking point. Prime Minister Boris Johnson committed in December to supporting at least one large-scale nuclear project by 2025 and has been in talks with Electricité de France SA for almost 10 months, trying to hammer out a deal. With a £20 billion or $27.2 billion price tag, nuclear plants are an expensive option. Legislation is planned as soon as the next month for a funding mechanism to spur the construction of new nuclear power plants to replace its aging fleet of reactors. The government said it will support large-scale projects and small and advanced modular reactors too. This is all for today. Thank you and goodbye for now. Stay blessed. See you in my next weekly episode.